So as I mentioned, you are someone who talks about money in a very, very compelling way, in my opinion. And part of the reason I feel like you do that and you're comfortable with it and it's such a compelling topic for you, as we were just discussing before we turned the cameras on, you say about yourself that you grew up in poverty. A lot of people are not comfortable with that word. What makes you comfortable with it?
I think what makes me comfortable with the word poverty is I really like to tell the truth. And I really like to sort of put things out the way they are, because there shouldn't really be shame attached to having grown up in poverty.
Sure.
It's not anything I could have controlled. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's strange, I think, that we attach shame to things that we have no control over. And I think that's about not being able to tell the truth and not being able to talk about our feelings. And so I say poverty because that's what it was. I lived in poverty. There is a spectrum of poverty. There is homelessness, which I've never experienced. There is not being able to eat, hunger, starvation. Never experienced that. But I did experience a lot of the things that cause a kind of trauma because you were not able to get what you needed. Not just what you wanted and not the best version of the thing, but you weren't able to get what you needed when you needed it. And so, yeah, I think that I don't want to sugarcoat having grown up in poverty, because then I'm not dealing with reality as I
Right.
deal with the effects of that in my life right now. If I act like it was something different when I was a kid, how do I deal with the reality of my life where the things that happened when I was a kid are still affecting me? I can't deny them. I have to be honest about them.
What was poverty like for you as a kid? What did it feel like?
You know, it took a long time to realize that not everybody lived the way I lived. I grew up in an area that was already pretty impoverished.
In Fort Wayne,
In
Indiana.
Fort Wayne, Indiana, my school system, 75% of my school system was on free or reduced lunch, which meant we were living in some form of poverty. If you
Right.
get reduced lunch, free lunch, that meant you weren't able to meet that cost. And that cost was about, I believe it was 90 cents for breakfast at full cost and $1.10 a day for lunch at full cost. And we couldn't meet that need.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, growing up around family, my mom has 4 sisters and they all lived in the same neighborhood. And then my grandma was down the street.
And you're one of 4.
And I am one of 4 kids. I am one of 17 of my grandmother's grandchildren. And we just all grew up around each other. So it's one of those things where I'm quite often like, was it that we always had enough money to eat? Or is it that when we didn't, we just went to someone else's house and ate over there? Like, I don't know what the truth is there, but I suspect it's closer to that version of things.
And did you feel like maybe because of that, because you were talking about before we started filming about how your experience of poverty was that you just really didn't want for things, that you
Yes.
almost kind of trained yourself to not even think about like the new clothes, the toys, the
Yes.
games, all of that. Do you think that part of that was because basically everyone around you was in the same situation?
I think that's part of it, even though of my mom's sisters, we had aunts and uncles who were more financially stable than we were. And even though their kids lived in the same neighborhood as us and we saw them all the time, we also saw up close that their kids were having a very different life.
They were getting like name brand cereal.
They were getting name brand cereal. They were getting the toys at Christmas that we couldn't even allow ourselves to imagine.
Right.
Their home, their backyard, going on vacation
Vacation.
Like, we were like, whoa. And you know, I come from the kind of family where people want to share. And so it's not that I never went on vacation. It's just that, like, I went on vacation with my aunt's family. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it were things like that. And that's not a bad way to grow up. Like, that's not a terrible way to grow up, doing things with your family. But I think that what poverty makes you feel is like you don't have options.
Right.
And when you feel like you don't have options, how can you let yourself want things that are not an option for you?